immerse yourself into the world of Creepy Man. He's waiting for you.
Mark and Lisa had always dreamed of a perfect getaway to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. Leaving their 2 children with Lisa's parents, they booked a luxurious trip to a beautiful yet secluded island. It was the kind of place that looked like paradise, with golden beaches, crystal clear waters, and adventure waiting at every corner. They arrived at the island excited, unaware that their dream vacation was about to turn into a terrifying nightmare. Mark and Lisa stepped off the ferry, greeted by warm breezes and the sight of palm trees swaying under the bright blue sky. Their hotel was nestled in the heart of the island, surrounded by lush greenery. After checking into their cozy wooden cabin, they spent the evening strolling along the beach, feeling the soft sand beneath their feet. Lisa, taking a deep breath, sighed. "This is perfect, Mark. Just us, the ocean, and no distractions." Mark smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "Finally, a break from everything. Let's make every moment count." Over the next few days, they lived their dream, paragliding over the sea, snorkeling among vibrant corals, and island hopping on a speedboat. The island was truly magical. One particular day, they embarked on a long trek through the dense jungle to reach a hidden waterfall. The path was steep and exhausting, but the sight of the cascading water was worth every step. They swam in the cool pool beneath it, laughing and splashing each other, before finally deciding to return to their hotel. By the time they reached their room, their bodies ached from exhaustion. "Let's just rest for a bit before heading to the famous sunset point," Lisa murmured, barely able to keep her eyes open. Without realizing it, they fell into a deep sleep. Mark woke up with a jolt, glancing at his phone. "Lisa, wake up! It's already 6 p.m. We're late for the sunset point." Lisa groaned and stretched, rubbing her eyes. "Wait, why does it still look like it's the middle of the afternoon?" she asked, staring out the window. Mark paused. She was right. The sky was unnaturally bright for that hour. Brushing off the unease, they decided to go ahead with their plans. They rented a motorbike and first visited the landmark, taking selfies against the breathtaking views. As night approached, they set off for the fire show at the beach. Trusting the GPS, Mark followed the mapped route. After 20 minutes, the app instructed them to take a right turn. The road soon became desolate, leading them into a dense forest. Lisa tightened her grip on Mark. "I don't like this, Mark. This place gives me chills." Mark checked his phone. "It's just 15 more minutes through this forest. We'll be fine." Reluctantly, Lisa agreed, though her instincts screamed at her to turn back. 5 minutes into the forest, darkness fell rapidly. The only source of light was their motorbike's headlamp. Suddenly, a thunderclap rumbled across the sky. And at that moment, the bike sputtered and stopped. Mark cursed under his breath. He got off and tried fixing the bike, while Lisa glanced around nervously. Mark managed to restart the bike, and they quickly rode out of the forest. Lisa, however, felt as if invisible eyes were watching her. The fire show was mesmerizing, dancers twirling flames under the moonlight. Mark and Lisa sat on the sand, enjoying the performance. But Mark notices something strange. Lisa is now wearing a chain he's never seen before. Shrugging it off, Mark went to buy food. When he returned, Lisa was still sitting in the exact position, staring at the beach, motionless. "Lisa?" he called. No response. His stomach tightened. "Lisa?" he shouted. She suddenly gasped, blinking rapidly. She turned to him, pale and terrified. "Mark, there's something in the woods behind the beach. It's calling me." Mark looked around but saw nothing. Deciding not to argue, he took Lisa back to the hotel. That night, she barely spoke a word. At around 2 a.m., Mark woke up to soft crying. His heart pounded as he turned on the bedside lamp. Lisa was sitting in the corner of the room, hugging her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Lisa, what's wrong?" "It followed us," she whispered. "It's outside, watching, calling me." Mark ran to the balcony and looked out. Nothing. Shaken, he convinced Lisa to leave the island early, looking at her behavior. They returned home, hoping the nightmare was over. But it wasn't. One night, when Mark was working late at office, he received a panicked call from Lisa at 2 a.m. Mark, come home now. It's here. Terrified, he rushed home. Lisa clung to him, sobbing, her body trembling violently. It's in the park, behind the trees. It won't leave me alone. Mark, frustrated and exhausted, grabbed her shoulders. Where? Show me. Lisa's breath hitched, her eyes wide in terror. It's in the balcony now. Mark turned, and his blood ran cold. A grotesque, shadowy figure hung upside down from the balcony railing, its hollow, soulless eyes locked onto him. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide in a grin that did not belong to this world. It swayed, fingers twitching as if ready to pounce. A cold sweat broke out on Mark's forehead, his heart hammering in his chest. Summoning all his willpower, he forced himself to pretend he saw nothing. Slowly, he locked the balcony door, his hands shaking, and turned away. He called Lisa's father, who, after listening to the entire story, arrived with a spiritual man. The moment the man stepped inside, the air grew dense. He listened to Lisa's story, then his gaze snapped to her neck. His expression turned grave. Where did you get that chain? Lisa's voice was barely above a whisper as she recounted the moment in the forest. That day she heard it when Mark was trying to fix the motorbike, a faint whispering from the trees. Her breath caught in her throat as her eyes landed on something, a gold chain hanging from a branch, swaying despite the still air. Without thinking, she reached for it. As soon as her fingers touched it, the chain snapped off and landed around her neck. Lisa gasped. A sudden chill washed over her. Mark, let's go, now, she said. Listening to that, the spiritual man's eyes darkened. He approached the balcony, scanning the shadows. Just as he turned back, a horrific, contorted face lunged at him. The divine man stumbled back as the entity shrieked and vanished into thin air. Regaining his composure, he took out a vial of holy water, murmuring ancient prayers. He splashed it onto Lisa's chain. Lisa let out an agonizing scream before collapsing. The spiritual man swiftly removed the chain, sealing it in a box with a powerful incantation. This must be buried deep in the earth, he said gravely. Only then will it be over. As the spiritual man carried the box away, an unseen force lurked in the shadows. A gust of wind blew through the night, and unnoticed, the box slipped from his hands. The lid popped open. A raspy breath filled the air. A twisted, ghastly figure emerged, stretching its grotesque limbs. The spiritual man's eyes widened in horror. Before he could react, the entity lunged, and the spiritual man smiled. A dark, unnatural smile. Before you go, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And don't forget to hit that like button. Your likes help our videos reach more horror fans and motivate us to create even scarier content for you. And if you got a real-life horror story of your own, or one you've heard from someone, we'd love to hear it. Send your chilling encounter to mrcreepymanpod@gmail.com and it might be featured in a future episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next terrifying tale. Until then, stay safe and don't look behind you.